the courthouse developed some large cracks, and we had a firm look at it and determined that it was unsafe, so we moved out of the courthouse. We was able to lease this facility from the school until we bought it, and what we've looked at this point in time was establishing part of the school complex over here, the cafeteria, and that portion of the building over there is a district court annex, courtroom, the district clerk's office, adult probation, and the DA's office all will be established in that area. The price tag on that is $2.9 million. We looked at the courthouse to move the county operation back into, which would be the county clerk, which she still remains there, but she'd be taking an area below her office also. The county attorney, the county judge, just the commissioners, and possibly the audit and the treasurer. All that's to be determined, but we're looking at $1,500,000 for stabilization. That's replacing windows and roof work and the foundation and all on that, and then $500,000 for remodeling of that. The library has been considering building a facility for several years, and they were asking for 25,000 to 30,000 square feet. They looked at this facility that we're occupying here now and determined that they would be happy with that. It would meet their needs and the needs of the community. And the preliminary report on that is $1.6 billion. So for $6,600,000, we get the 3 facilities. The sheriff the other day mentioned that in '94 they built this jail here for 160 beds, and the price tag was $4 million. What was the price of the one in Torrance County now?
I think it's 13 or 14.
13 to 14 million. It's a 60-bed jail, so the cost has gone up considerably. Now, as I said at a meeting the other day, my wife kind of criticized me for making the statement, but I was one of the ones that said if that courthouse fell down, we would be ahead. You know, it'd be easier to build a new one. The architect pointed out that to build a facility anywhere like that, you'd be looking at $20 million to start with, and that by the with this $2 million, you got a building good for another 100 years. So with that, this is a public hearing, and anyone has any comment or questions at all, now it's time to ask them. We've got the architect and the financial advisor here to talk about it. If not, I'll ask Mr. Bob Henderson if he would kind of go through what you did with the commissioners and the auditor the other day and tell us kind of what we could look at and so forth.
I was warned by Verna and Mr. Wiley both to keep it short.
Be able to.
The preliminary budget that I've had shared with you is $6.6 million. I have not seen a breakdown of that budget, so I want to make sure we got proper amounts of contingencies in there. Money's never furniture, fixtures, equipment, and everything else to make sure that it's fully occupiable. As Ms. Borzell was talking about earlier, the county's got some bonds outstanding, which was a refinance of the '94 bonds, and that bond pays off in 2014 or earlier, depending on whether or not the long-term plan includes the utilization of that $595,000 to pay off that debt. Your current interest and sinking fund tax rate is 1.82 cents. That includes collecting taxes for the outstanding jail debt, as well as for some equipment time warrants that the county has taken out over the recent years. The county treasurer has forwarded that information to me. We're going to be examining that when I get back to my office. The point being is that with today's interest rates, which are, believe it or not, actually under 2.5% for tax-exempt debt, we would be able to finance that $6.6 million without a tax rate increase. In other words, the 1.82 cents that you're levying for taxes now for your existing debt would be sufficient when that debt is paid off to meet the debt service on this new debt. So we can do this with a no pain kind of situation relative to your existing tax rate. As Commissioner Gomez indicated, we do want to go through a long-term plan of finance. As we know, these three projects are very important to the county, but there are other things that need to be done in the county as well, not the least of which is always road and bridge work for counties. So what we want to do is to put together a long-term plan of finance, looking at not only financing these items, but examining what other capital improvements the county is likely to need in the intermediate and long-term future, 3 to 5 years out, 8 to 10 years out, 20 years out, and making sure that we structure this debt in a way that gives you the maximum amount of latitude to deal with the other capital improvements that you have coming down the road. But the short version is that we can do $6.6 million without a tax rate increase, largely due to the fact you've got substantial debt on your existing jail that's about to pay off.
Any questions, comments?
Mr. Thorne, do you have, I know you the number, but did you come down to a good number, exactly what it's going to cost? I mean,
no, I mean, we sort of we're in the design development stage on the drawing in for the. We haven't even really looked at that. We've gone ahead and done schematics and worked with Nikki for the library and what have you, but we haven't. We're not. That's the next phase we need to enter into to be able to really get us some hard numbers. But we're looking at based on our knowledge and from what we're getting information from the current market rates for construction costing, as accurate as we can be without complete final bids. We've gone through a bidding exercise to try and get as close as we can at the point in time we're at. The existing courthouse, if you remember, when we did the analysis on that, we had one of the couple of pretty senior engineering firms go through their market rates. They're pretty accurate on their foundation system number because there's only sort of 1 or 2 chaps in the country that can do it and have experience doing it. And they did the ones that on west side of Austin there that had similar very poor foundation system issues. So I think at this point in time was as accurate as we can be. Again, by the time we get the construction drawings forward, we'll be able to really tighten them up. But that being said, it also works to the point that because they're estimates, we try to sort of favor on the side of caution as well a little bit too. So we just need to adjust the specifications if they're a little, you know, if that needs to be the case, that's not a problem. We do that all the time. And again, in the existing building, the things you've got to have, and as I said, you know, you have to contingencies. Those numbers there we have, we need to put furniture allowances and things like that. The hard cost of construction, I think, was close as we can be at this point. Again, I don't feel uncomfortable about it at all. We've crawled all over this building. We've been meeting with structural engineers, looking at the best way to utilize the existing steel frame structure that encapsulates the cafeteria building currently, how we can cut, change it, create the roof system so it's more applicable for the courtroom we want, but try to retain as much of the steel system that's there. Going from the road.
I'm having a little trouble understanding one thing.
Yes, sir.
In '94, you financed the county financed a $4 million project.
Yes, sir.
And now we're financing this, and we're paying that off, but we're financing a 6.6, we don't have to raise taxes. Is that why? Is it because the rates are lower?
The interest rates are lower, and your tax base has grown.
through the process of all of this, you go back to, this is just for the folks that maybe haven't been here. When you go back to 2 years ago, when we discovered we had a problem with our courthouse and that we were going to need to vacate, and we started looking for a location, a temporary location, we considered, just in conversation, all sorts of things. We didn't know that we were going to fall into the opportunity here. whenever we leased it, that was a pretty incredible opportunity based on what we paid for this city block and the condition of the buildings and what we may be able to do with them in the future. We considered perhaps relocating out toward the Justice Center before this came along. But Mr. Henderson, in conversation the other day, pointed out again something that we knew, is that he had seen in his experience situations where the courthouses had been relocated away from downtowns and the downtowns died, just died. And so this is an opportunity, in my opinion. We could probably save some money. We could do our commissioner's court. We could do our elected officials. This is just Commissioner Wiley speaking. We could do all of them in this facility, this block, and probably do it for less money. I'm sure we could. But we have a courthouse that is 1883, and that's pretty significant. As I've stated before here, it seems that Americans have a tendency to be a throwaway society. It isn't quite right, so let's not fix it, let's just do a new one. And I think that 50 years from now, the citizens that are here will be very, very pleased that we saved that courthouse and that we kept the center of our county government over there, all of our key elected officials in that building. And the city of Floresville, I think, will be thrilled because, one, the courthouse will be over there. You really can't locate. We've had conversations early on with our architect about things that we could do to expand the courthouse downtown. This was before we bought this. But the first thing that we were hit with is that from a parking standpoint, we don't have the capability. So now we have this facility. We have the potential to locate the key officials to keep the center of our county government in our courthouse as it's been since 1883. To come 3 blocks over, I guess it is, to do our district court and other offices here. And from the standpoint of the Floresville downtown, to me, given time, we've just expanded downtown. It's really something that I think could be a tremendous benefit for the city of Floresville in the long term. And I do like to follow up on what Commissioner Gamez said earlier, Mr. Henderson's suggestion that we do long-term planning from the standpoint of needs for the county. And I would suggest that we consider that. And now that we have done a contract with him, ask Mr. Henderson to facilitate the meeting if we do it. He's used to this because it's not going to cost us anything to do it. And I think if we take a look at where we've been and where we are, and where we're going, if we could work some of that into a structure so that we have some idea, although long-term plans are just that. You look at them and you change them year by year. I think it would be a great value to the county and to the court.
For the everything that you said, I agree with. There was, but for the public, I want to know that we've made the most fiscal, responsible decisions we can in every aspect of it, and I concur with everything you said. But the one item you said that we could have located over here at a lesser cost than back in the courthouse, but it wouldn't be a lesser cost if we built a courthouse structure here in this facility. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a wash, to be honest, but I still think...
To build a building that you had designed out in the middle?
Again, no. But the Commission's Court space is part of one of these wing arrangements, which is one of the options we look
But
at.
what I'm saying is, if we had a traditional courthouse built here, what would that cost?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's...
And my point too, Judge, is to back up on that, is even if there's a cost savings,
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is that for the public out there that says they want it most efficient without, I agree with everything you're saying, but I don't want to leave any
Right.
hole in there that we didn't do the most financial feasible thing that we could do and still have a courthouse, a traditional
Well,
courthouse.
and with that, if we did our courthouse over here, we still have an 1883 courthouse that you either have to let fall, or you have to knock down, or you have to spend money to repair. And so we could spend the money to repair it and not spend the 500,000 or whatever the number was as far as new air conditioners and refurbishing of the inside. From the standpoint of efficiency, in my opinion, what we have recommended is the most efficient way to go.
So this
That was the part that I left out, is you still have a courthouse, even if it is a wash, here or there, you still have a courthouse.
So the study we've done, that's the only sense in the world, that you have a courtroom up there, it's a beautiful courtroom, it's in great shape. It needs a bit of reorganizing for facilities moving over there, but for the most part, it's made for it.
Right.
I want to follow up on what you said, but also follow up what Commissioner Wiley said. As a taxpayer, what I'm seeing is we're going to get our courthouse back. We've got this entire city block, and you're not using very much of it, which means you've got a lot of expansion. And all of this is being done, and we're not going to get a tax increase. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Now, when you said it was at no cost for the long-term plan, I saw a smile between our auditor and
I just promised him lunch.
We're making a joke. There is no charge for me facilitating the Visions workshops when I carry, she can buy me a hamburger, you know.
Not lost.
But that, what he was talking about is a good idea when we were talking about having a vision for the future of the county, because I mean, you never know in 5, 10 years or 20 years, if what we see for the growth is coming, I mean, we might get another increase, what is it, a 15 or 20% increase of population, and then what? So I think your idea of providing something, setting up dates for a workshop for having the vision for the county, and having people, I mean, the constituents come in and say, you know what, well, this is an idea that on the long term, maybe you can put it up in there, so we can get going also with ideas like that.
Absolutely, and it gives us an opportunity to address all sorts of issues.
Right.
To address roads, to address building of new roads. It gives us the opportunity well, I was about to say that. It gives us an opportunity to take a look at existing pavement and cost associated with it, and under that guideline, perhaps find a way to fund it.
But I concur with all that, and with the, but one thing too, as far as long-term planning, it's gonna be sketchy no matter what you do.
Oh, sure.
Because of the Eagle Ford, it's even more so than ever. You've got roads down that you're better off that they're not paved at the time with the material that's going over them. At some point in time, maybe the drilling and the exploration will cease, and you'll want those roads to be paved to take care of the people managing the facilities. We've got a great chance for a lot more tax base coming into the county with the rail yard that's going in up in the Stampo area, with the infrastructure to the oil wells and things that's going to be coming out of Karnes County. Plus, there's a number of rigs running in our county at this time. So that, and the refinery between Pandora and Dixon now up and running. So it's an ever-changing thing, and like I said, we do need to plan, but we need to also understand that it will be sketchy, because no one knows what the population and everything is going to be. So
Things change, and at the risk of getting long-winded, I'm going to make 2 quick comments. The first thing is that, you know, you can't get where you're going if you don't know where you're going. So you have to have a vision and an idea of where it is that you want to be. And the second thing is that although these plans are ever evolving and changing, Harvard did a study that demonstrated that you're 700% more likely to achieve your goals if your goals are written. So that's what our goal is to get our goals written at this point.
Well, Mr. Henderson and Mr. Thorne,
Looking at 11, 12 months from beginning to end on the judicial complex. And about 6 months on the courthouse, but probably a little more with the remodeling of the courthouse. So the courthouse would probably become available before the judicial complex, which would allow the library, you know, them to run that kind of parallel with some of their work that they
We
do.
can run that concurrently, I mean, for that matter, the closest to them all, I mean, the synergy between all three, you can run them all at the same time, phase them accordingly as the county wishes, and as priorities come in. But as I said, we've gone through this exercise, we're going through this exercise, we have been for, what, 7 years with Columbia County? And we're in that process again right now. We're now looking at, we first analysed all the county buildings they had, looked at what were the needs. We established the Justice Centre and one of the old furniture buildings. We're now doing the second phase. We then went into administration buildings. We're looking at now finishing up the second floor, 3-story building for Justice Centre. And then we're looking at doing exactly what we're advocating here, moving the Commissioner's Court then over to the old county courtroom to the top floor of the existing old Justice Centre, the old courthouse downtown. For that exact reason, and exactly what we're looking at here, it's so important to keep that real, revitalizations downtown here. You can't, I think it would be extremely sad for generations to come to let that courthouse go to ruin. It's just unnecessary. We can make it work exactly like we want. And you know, we started that back in 07, 08. 07 in Guadalupe. And I don't think that the rates even weren't as good there as they are now. So I think it's a no-brainer from what we see on a day-to-day basis.
Any other questions, comments? And what was that you said, you don't know where you're going, where will you be?
How are you gonna get there?
That's
You
kind of
gotta have an idea, and that's what the district workshop.
You might
is
end
about.
up if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else.
That's right. You might show up at your mother-in-law's house by accident.
one of the states open there.
Did I say that out loud?
Judge, these will all be open meetings and put on the agendas and everything.
Yeah, and we set them where they'll all be open meetings, you know, for the court. But if anybody has a desire to have a nighttime meeting or something, I have no objection.
I'll be there.
We're trying to keep this as open a process as possible, and because we feel like it's an exciting time for our county and an opportunity to address many of the needs for the county that could have been, with the courthouse deteriorating like it was, it could have been a much tougher road to get to where we are. And so, like I said, the more open we can have it, the better we can.
And I think what you're saying is right, and I think we ought to set up some in the evening so the public can also, because we know a lot of people work and
I think the first thing, we set one up and see how
it works.
how you know, participation. I think generally, I mean, there's always, you follow those blogs and everything, you're gonna find some complaints, no matter what you do, if you give everybody if you was able to give everybody a huge bonus. But the general public, I think, are pleased to see that we're being able to answer this in a very fiscally responsible way and actually take care of as many needs for many years.
And Judge, to follow up on what Mr. Gerhardt said a while ago about, you know, being pleased with what we're doing and not having a tax increase, it's been said, but we're taking care of the courthouse, and at the same time, as you pointed out earlier, we've had a library issue ever since you've been here, before you were here, Nikki, and I always thought that we were going to have to go out for a bond or something, particularly with the size and so forth. We're getting all that tied into a nice little package with the bow on top of it.
With a lot of expansion.
With a
You
lot
still
of
have a lot of
expansion.
expansion. Usually just a very small portion.
And speaking of that with the library, there've been a couple of on that blog, and probably we shouldn't even give them the time of day to answer the things, but they're talking about why are we doing a library when we need the roads in shape? your maximum cost of that is basically 1.6 is, how much roads did you build for $1.6 million?
Not a lot.
You know, and roads are important, and we realize that, and we're addressing, you know, but what I'm saying is, that's a lame argument to, whenever we worked with this group to try to address that for a number of years, and.
I can maybe give you an answer to that, James. I've got some friends in the road building business, and we were having a conversation about this a few weeks before Christmas. And they say it works out that standard road, and we're on about highways now, you're looking about $1 million a mile.
Yeah. And so, anyway, at that, do y'all wanna meet in my office or visit?
We can talk about a little schedule on when the Commissioners Court might be available for this business workshop.
And what we'd like to do as well, we'd like to suggest part of that system is I think then having one of the workshops then sort of making a sub-plan within a larger plan of how the Commissioners Court would like to, the county would like to address, you know, the priorities for what building when and where all at the same time, things 1A, 1B, 1C type of thing. And one thing I do want to stress though, to meet that time schedule, we need to be continuing on with our schedule for the drawings to work forward. We need to get a mechanical engineer on board, which we sent a bid in for them. That's the last engineer consultant we'll need. But we'll be moving within probably 3 or 4 weeks into the construction drawing phase, which takes some time to get that together. So we want to keep the momentum going on our end, so then we can meet the schedule.
I guess what I'm more or less asking is, we're pretty flexible as far as when we meet. And we did employ Russell Wilson to continue to make sure we met our deadlines and so forth, so on. He's not here today. But what I'm suggesting is the two of you would like to visit and come up with something that then, whatever y'all come up with, we'll more than likely be able to make it work for whatever time, whenever.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
The only week that I can see for sure coming up that might be a problem is that we have a conference the week of February the 18th. Then you're not going to the one in Austin?
No, I'm not going to.
I don't think anybody's going, so I'm going.
Oh, that's right, it's Austin.
This is the annual one. It's the really good one. I even went when it was in College Station.
I think we got one from A&M, one from Texas on here. We meet in College Station in Texas. I quit going to both of them.
We used to meet in Waco, and I didn't work anymore. I would think sooner rather than later for the meeting.
Yeah, like I said,
1 week's not available anytime, whether it's evenings or days, whatever.
whatever, you know, so we're flexible. Okay. We'll end the public hearing now and move on to